All right. Hey, everybody. Welcome to Gimme a Song. I'm Jeff Phipps, your host. I invite people on. I always said my friends. Today's a little bit different. I'm interviewing someone I don't know that well, so we'll see how this goes. The format is I ask people, come on, give me a song. Go check out the song. It's really important when that happens. Please introduce yourself. Tell me what you do.
My name is Chris Sweet, and I'm a guitar player here in town. Been here in St. Louis for 18 years. Okay. Prior to that, I was living in Austin for a couple years, but originally from Wisconsin, so I'm a diehard Green Bay Packer fan.
I saw the Green Bay sign on the way in.
Yeah.
My nephew's a huge Green Bay Packer fan.
Oh, excellent. So he's as sad as I am right now.
I text him during games. So all season, I've just been needling him on certain games. My dad's from Detroit, and I was born in Michigan, so we're Lions fans. I was a Rams fan for the longest time.
When they were here.
Yeah. And then when the Rams left, I was like, I'll just go back to the Lions.
Get on the Lions bandwagon.
No, it wasn't like getting on the bandwagon. I was always a Lions fan. When we had the Cardinals, and then Lions fan, then Rams fan, and then back to Lions.
Yeah. So. Well, you picked a good time.
Yeah. I picked a good time to get back on the bandwagon. We have do you drink beer? Are you a beer drinker?
Yes, I am.
Okay, well, today's sponsor is Jenks Beer, all right? So Jenks is the painter's choice because while other brands say they taste like turpentine, Jenks is actually made with it, all right? So Jenks can be found at fine establishments all over the tri-state area. Also coming soon is Jenks Light with 30% more turpentine. And as everybody knows the saying, Jenks, the terp makes it work.
Wow.
So that's today's sponsor is Jenks Beer.
All right.
Yeah.
You didn't bring any.
They always send it after the fact.
Oh, okay. All right. So I'll have to let you know.
If you're paying attention, you said you actually listened to the podcast. So the first one was Frownies. That was brownies for people with seasonal depression. You said you haven't caught in today's episode. So this is Wednesday. So Ben Johnson's episode just came out today. Hopefully you enjoyed it. The sponsor for that is the Channel 18 news team. And you'll hear about them when you listen to the show. But, and then now we have Jenks Beer. But everybody sends me stuff after the fact. So I'm sorry. And really, I'm not a painter. And turpentine really isn't a flavor that I'm fond of.
It's not terrible.
Is it? I bet it is. All right, Mr. Sweet, Chris.
Yes, sir.
You are in a band. Tell me about your band.
I am in a band called Southern Gypsy in town. We've the band itself has been together for, man, I don't even know how long, 5, 6, maybe 7 years. I'm not even sure. It was a buddy of mine, and he had been asking me to audition for a handful of years, and I just had other things going on, and the timing was right, and I ended up going down. The main folks from the band are basically they all live in St. John. So the drummer's in St. John and the singer's from Jen.
For people who don't know.
Yes, yeah.
Not that anyone outside of St. Louis listens to this yet. I think maybe like a handful of people, but you never know. But St. Genevieve's a little bit further south of here.
About an hour?
A friend of mine owned a Mexican restaurant there for a little
really?
while. Yeah, El Postino's or something like that.
No.
Had amazing street tacos. He put pineapple on his street tacos.
Yeah.
Greatest thing ever.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm a fan of that.
Yeah, I'm a huge fan of street tacos.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Mexican food in general.
Yeah. Oh, my wife calls me the whitest Mexican she ever met. Because I'm like, let's go for Mexican. She's like, we went yesterday.
In Mexico, people call me Mexican and speak Spanish to me, and I don't know a lick of it. So
that's funny.
It really isn't. It's depressing more than anything else. It's frustrating. We got called when we came back from Mexico last year, and we usually go once a year. And
we're in Mexico.
Just Cancun,
okay.
Like a all-inclusive resort.
Yeah.
My fiance loves the beach. We get called up because we didn't check our passports in properly or something, and they call her up, and she's in front of me, and they speak perfect English to her. I get there, and it's like, Spanish. And I was like, no hablo. And then they were like, oh, okay. No one believes me. And then so it's always a thing.
You know what's funny? The exact same thing happens to me.
I completely doubt that. What has been your biggest accomplishment with this band in particular so far?
Just growth. I mean, when the band first started, when I first started the band, it was really around COVID time. So it's a little hard to tell. How things were going prior to my existence. And, we started getting quite a following down in that area. And then in the last year or two, we've started playing up here quite a bit. And it's going real well. I mean, I'm sure just like the comedy world, right? I mean, it takes it takes way longer than you want it to. Right?
Oh yeah, except for that one person who's like figured it out. And then they're like a big hit in like 3 years, and you're
I'm
like, how did this
person?
And you're like, how did you do that? And you're just seething the entire time at them.
Right. You want to be happy for them, but in the middle, you're like,
right, exactly.
Yeah.
But you deal with that internally. There's a lot of that. Have you guys put out an album or anything, or are you guys just?
No, we're all cover.
Okay.
But although I will say I have a project going right now where we're writing some tunes, and years ago, my formative years, I guess I would say, we were. I did a lot of writing, and with the bands I was in, and CDs and whatnot. Actually, cassettes at one point.
Oh wow.
I'm showing my age, man.
Yeah, well, I had a cassette player. I had a record player.
Excellent. So, cool. Did you have 8-track, though?
Oh, my dad did. Okay. Yeah, we had 8 tracks in the house.
Okay, that's fair.
And in the car.
Same.
Yeah.
We were probably pretty close to the same age. I'm 54. Yeah, so.
Around there.
Yeah, fair. And for whatever reason, working and kids and the whole thing, I just stopped writing, and it was just a thing. And then I don't know, about 6 months ago, I'm like, I don't know why I'm not doing that.
Yeah.
So I went out and bought some gear, and me and my drummer have been writing tunes, and it's we've got 5 basically done at this point, and with a whole lot in the hopper. And my original idea, to be honest with you, was I wanted to put together a record with like different singers on each song.
Yeah. That sounds like a nightmare to me.
It was, the thing is, like, I'm much more passionate about than anybody else was, right?
Yeah.
So I'm like, hello, I sent you tracks, That's not a dig at anybody.
It sounds like putting out a podcast once a week with like with different people every single week. Right. I've had you're going to be number 16. And I've lined up a couple other people. Like I was messaging people on the way here,
cool.
And stuff.
You weren't texting and driving.
Oh, of course not. No. But the point is that like I've had 2 people back out already, and one person was like maybe later, and I don't believe that we're ever gonna cross paths, and and then one person is like has moved, so I don't think we're gonna do anything like that.
That's funny.
But it's like the kind of same thing. It's like, okay, this is important to me.
Right.
Maybe not you.
Right.
So
right. Exactly.
It's a little frustrating at times because you get excited about it, but yeah, I mean, I just couldn't imagine trying to put together like a EP of like five songs with 5 different singers, and and it's a lot of time for everybody, and
that's exactly right.
It would be your time more than anybody else's, and your drummers.
Yeah, well, and the reality is they're all it was all guys that I've played with before up in Milwaukee and whatnot, and everybody's busy, again, people have kids and they're playing as much as or more than I am, so I mean, I get it. I mean, it's not a...
How many gigs a month are you guys playing?
2 or 3. Okay. 2 or 3 a month. So it's not unreasonable.
Yeah.
But there was a time, I don't know if it was last year or the year before, where it was a lot. Yeah. I think we had played like 8 weeks in a row, and I was
like every night, every weekend.
Yeah. So I was exhausted.
Yeah.
But it was fun. That's the thing. Even when I complain about it, I wouldn't stop doing it.
Right. Well, it's the same thing about comedy. There's famously no money in comedy.
Right.
And then, like there's more money being in a band than there is in being in comedy.
Is there really?
Yeah, of course. I mean, it's usually bars will give you money. Like there's a lot of shows that like, you're maybe $25, maybe $50, if you're not headlining or whatever.
Right.
So,
yeah, it's got to be there's probably a lot of parallels as far as the comedy world and the music world. Like when you had put that out on Facebook, I'm like, hey man, this is a great idea. I'd love to. And I think I reached out to you, right? Yeah, I did.
Yeah, and a couple other people reached out to me, and then they were just like, meh. And I was like, okay.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh. See, I've been looking forward to this.
Maybe they listened to the podcast, and then they were like, no. And they're like, it sounds terrible. But now we've got fancy mics.
Right, now it's going to sound amazing.
It will sound amazing.
I'm the first one.
You are. You're the guinea pig. So if it doesn't go well.
The microphone virgin.
Yeah. We're gonna try and bring people back on at some point for some of the podcasts that just didn't go well.
How do you decide whether it goes well or not? Just how you feel about it?
My fiance will tell me afterwards. And she'll be like, this sounds terrible. And my other friend, like I do have like a supporter group, people who listen and stuff.
Of course.
I'm really appreciative. And they'll be like, oh, it sounded echoey or it sounded this. And it's just like, all right.
Oh, that's fair.
Yeah. So,
yeah. But I mean, you want that feedback. That's the thing, right?
I don't. The common misconception
just cry just a little bit.
You're a musician, so you would know. Like the common misconception is people want to know, like people want to tell you how you did, and it's like I don't want to know. Like internally, I know when something went well, and I know when it went bad.
That's right.
If you
exactly
missed notes or something like that. I know if I stepped over a line or my punchline didn't hit, or
I do want to ask you about that.
Yeah. Well, we can jump right in. You can ask any time, but let's do actually kind of focus a little bit like on the format of the podcast.
Sure.
It's really open ended. Besides that, I ask people to give me songs, and then of course here's the offer. So do you want to know like the foundation of the podcast? I do ask.
Absolutely.
Okay, so after show, one of my friends, Larry Smith, who was on the second episode, was wearing a Drive-By Trucker shirt. Are you a fan of the Drive-By Truckers?
Yeah.
So I'd seen them.
I think they're out of Austin.
I don't know. Sure.
Yeah.
I'll disagree. We'll look it up. So he's wearing a Drive-By Trucker shirt. I saw it, and I was like, I saw them open up for Tom Petty, and I was like, I'm good. And he's like, oh, no, you don't understand. He's like, you got to hear this song. And I was like, okay. And he plays the song, and it was a really good song. And I was like, okay, well, my favorite band is Interpol, which we always talk about on the show. And I was like, you got to hear one of their sons, because he was like, I'm not that familiar with them. I was like, okay. And so we exchanged songs. And then later on, I was like, I could do this at any time. Like this is a thing I could do. Mm-hmm. So and that was it.
I think it's a great idea.
To get back. So we exchanged songs, and then like 2 months later, 3 months later, I was always trying to find a reason to talk to people. And one of the things I wanted to do was like a show where I would actually invite audience members up on stage and talk to them and just ask them like random questions. Cause I'm just really a curious person.
Yeah.
And, that fell through because I was dependent on another person, or I wanted another person. And so that didn't work out. And then I was like, oh, well, here's an idea. Like people just give me songs. But if you're going to give me a song, then I'm going to give you a song. But anyway, you did give me a song. And what was the song you gave me?
Fooled Around and Fell in Love.
Yeah, but it wasn't by the original artist.
Right, who was Elvin Bishop. So that song came out in 1975.
Yeah.
And I don't know why it never occurred to me that the guy who sang for Jefferson Starship is the guy who's actually singing on the 1975 version.
The original version.
Right, the original version.
Okay.
Right. So Mickey Thomas, right? And I grew up with that song. And for whatever reason, it had, it's something you hadn't heard for a long time.
Yeah.
And then, I'm not even sure how it came about, this Winery Dogs version, I saw
That's the version you sent me.
Yeah.
And it's only on YouTube.
Correct. Yes.
From a show in Japan.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, I think that's right. So it's Richie Kotzen and Billy Sheehan, who's been in a bazillion different bands.
Okay.
And Mike Portnoy, who's the drummer for Dream Theater.
Yeah.
And it's an amazing version.
Are you a big fan of Dream Theater?
I could take them or leave them.
Yeah.
I'm not really a big prog rock guy. I mean, I don't hate them, but
Tool is about as far. Tool and Rush are considered prog rock.
Yeah,
and they're kind of like on the edge of it.
Yeah, I
and
agree
I
with
can't
you.
go further than that.
That's how I am too. I mean, I can listen to it for a little while, but after a while, I'm like, oh my god,
just wrap it up.
That's exactly right. I don't need another time change.
Yeah,
right.
I don't know his relationship to me. I guess he's part of the family. He's like extended family. He's in.
Did you call him Uncle Dave?
No,
it's one of those things.
No, it's not like that. He's like a cousin of a cousin. But he's in a jam band called Escape, and they recently played. They got back together and played in Belleville. They put an album out in like the early 2000s. Great band, but they're a jam band, and he's like into like prog rock and stuff like that. And he'll send me stuff, and it's like, okay, like
right.
Some of it's good, and then some of it's like, okay, they could have they could have bundled this back together like 10 minutes ago.
Yeah. Well, and that's kind of, my wheelhouse, right? Is I need a hook. Like, I'm a pop music, I mean, now I like a lot of guitars and, so they, there's this whole genre that they call power pop, which I absolutely adore, for the most part. And oddly enough, there's an artist out there. His name is Butch Walker, who I'm a giant fan of, and I really toyed with a lot of his songs because a lot of people don't know who he is, but he's kind of he probably has done more in the industry as far as a producer is concerned. So he's done stuff for Taylor Swift and Katy Perry and Bowling for Soup and all sorts of Fall Out Boy and whoever.
Right.
But this tune, I always knew who Richie Kotzen was.
Okay.
And
he's like the lead singer of Mr. Big, right? Or at some point?
Well, he was for one album.
And then Poison for one album.
Yeah, and he was the guitar player.
I did some research.
Nice. I appreciate that. Yeah. Well, and what's funny is, going all the way back to when he was in Poison, I was like,
yeah.
And, I mean, I had friends telling me, man, you gotta check out Richie Kotzen. You gotta check out Richie Kotzen. And I'm like,
And he's put out like 15 albums by himself.
Many. And actually, for his 50th birthday, well, it was during COVID, right? He came out with an album called 50 for 50. There are 50 songs on that record.
Oh, wow. You can do that now because it's digital. I mean, did he actually release something physical?
I don't know.
Because, you couldn't, no one's going to let you crank out like 4 LPs.
Right.
And
not
sell
anymore.
that. Not for like less than $100 or something like that.
Right. Exactly. So when when I heard this, I fell in love and, no pun intended.
Right.
And then it kind of became me and my wife's song a little bit. And, and so, I mean, it turned me on to Richie Kotzen, whom I completely, have fallen for since and it's really only been like a year and a half. But he came to town. We went and saw him, and
where'd he play?
Just amazing. He was at the City Winery.
Okay,
I hadn't been in there before. It's pretty nice.
Yeah, a couple of my friends run shows out of there. So Jack Wright, who was on the podcast, he's been running a show off and on in there. I don't know. He hasn't run a show in there in a while, but he was running shows in the City Winery for a little bit. Yeah,
I don't know how long that place has been open.
Oh God, not that long.
Yeah, I was just saying, it hasn't been that long. Yeah.
I mean, maybe around COVID time, probably.
That makes sense. Makes sense. It's a great room. I mean, it's definitely built for music. I mean, the acoustics in there. I mean, whoever they had designed that room, they did a good job.
Well, it's like a franchise,
right?
So they have
I suppose they've got all the money for people designing or whatever. But I mean, the way the sound baffles were and everything else. I'm noticing things. My wife's like, would you just shut up? Like, it's a nice room. Right?
I've had a couple of people who have been musicians. Scott James was a former musician. John Parker,
right? Yeah.
And John Parker, who's also in a band. When he was talking about we were talking Frank Zappa, and he was just like, and then I was talking about MGMT, and he's like, in the background it's this kind of guitar, and I was like, no, that's not how this works. like it's very superficial.
My wife is. I'll say something that's she'll say is nerdy. She'll be like, just don't ruin this for me.
I do this. It's the same way about comedy. If I can see,
I'm sure it is.
When if I can see what's going on, it takes me out of it. Like I've really got to be. Like I got to find somebody who either I know very well and they're a friend of mine and I want to see what they do next because I'm excited, or somebody who just catches me completely off guard. If it's like in between, I'm just like, right, it's okay.
Yeah. That's how I am
like Anthony Jeselnik and Nate Bargatze are like my two favorites because you just don't really know what they're going to say next or where they're going with something.
Right.
So I got to give you feedback because that's how this works. This song has always been in the back of my head. I would be shopping somewhere and I'd hear it, or in the 80s or whatever, it's on KC95 or whatever.
Yeah.
And just in one ear, out the other. I never really paid attention. When you sent the I knew the song immediately on name. Mm-hmm. And I was like, this isn't the band that sings. This was my first thought. And then I listened to it, and it's a good version of the song.
Yeah.
I never really paid attention to lyrics before. And it's kind of weird. I just thought it was like a typical love song, but it's really not.
Right.
It's kind of crazy. It's like this guy's just out and about, as I like to say. He's just getting it.
Yeah.
Like
throwing it around, as it were.
Yes, he's giving a dog a bone, you could say. And And then he finally meets the one, and he's just like, oh, now it's over. Now I've got to settle down.
Yeah. Yeah.
It just it doesn't come across that way. Now, in any version of the song, it doesn't come across.
I would agree with that. And like I probably same. Right? Like, it's always a song that I knew. I always liked it. And, as soon as you hear it, you're like, oh, yeah, I remember that song,
Yeah.
And you're right. I mean, until you, like, look at it and you're like, oh.
Yeah.
Oh. No. Elvin.
Yeah. Through a million girls. It's like, oh, come on. Like nobody's putting up Chamberlain numbers.
Right.
What was it, like 27,000?
20,000 or something.
27,000.
Yeah.
I guess, like, it seems like mathematically impossible. And you said you're like a former developer. I've got a degree in math. It's like I think we could run the numbers on it.
Can't even imagine.
It'd just be tired.
Right.
I would just be tired. Like, no.
Right. Exactly.
No more, but whatever.
I'm going to move, and I'm not going to tell anybody where I'm living.
Yeah. Like, you just become a monk at that point. I don't know.
Right.
But
Right.
it's just like I said, it's just like one of those things that really caught me off guard because it's like I never gave this song. It's a good rock song, and I don't listen to a lot of rock songs. Like I listen to like
you gave me a rock song.
I did, but we'll get to that.
Okay.
Yeah. Right. But there's like it's very tight restrictions on rock songs per se. But yes, okay. I did give you a rock song. But for the most part, I just didn't get into. I like the song. I do. I always have. It's not. But it's inoffensive. It's like I said. It's like you could be doing your grocery shopping,
right,
and hear the song and just be like in one ear out the other.
Yep.
And but you made me like. That's one of the things that people made me do. It's like, okay, pay attention to this. This is a song that means something to me.
Yeah.
And it's just like, wow. Like I said, the lyrics are just kind of like stunning.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
did you know that prior to, or like when did you when did you sit down and be like, this is what this song is about?
Oh, the second time around when I finally heard that video.
Oh, okay.
Like you just kind of take it for granted.
Mm-hmm. That's a good way of putting it. Yeah.
Yeah, and then after a while, I'm listening to it. I'm like, what is this? What is he talking about?
Yeah.
So then, you look at it and you're like, oh.
But this is like your guys' song now.
We play this. Well, me and my wife for sure. Yeah, we absolutely love it. But it's not like.
It's not you.
Right.
It's not autobiographical.
No, for sure is not me. No, I'm more on the Wilt Chamberlain side now.
Not a million.
Right, just 27,000.
Just 27,000.
Well, and I think, part of it too is, just the way that he sings that and his guitar playing. I mean, it's really incredible. I mean, the dude is clearly an emotional guy.
Yeah.
And I think it comes across, and I think that's what I love about it.
Yeah. It's the band. I listened to a couple of other songs by the band just to kind of get a feel for the band.
Winery Dogs?
Yeah. And they're like a great bar band would be the best way to describe it.
Yeah.
Which is fine. I like going to a bar and listening to a good band. I always tell people you can't really tell a great band from a good band. But you can definitely tell a good band from a bad band.
Absolutely, yeah.
And I think that's like the line in the sand. That line between good and great is hard to see.
100% agree.
And sometimes, that good band is just missing somebody noticing them.
Yeah,
it's
absolutely.
the same. And you talked about parallels in comedy. Like there's tons of people who just will never get that shot of being like, a national touring headliner and could
just because they didn't perform it for the right person,
right?
For whatever reason.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the same way. I mean, it's like that in sports too. I always wonder if the greatest football player that ever existed in the history of time, never played football.
Yeah,
that's
maybe.
Possible.
I mean, but it's possible. But I think at the same time, like then that person wasn't. Like in sport, I think sports it's a little bit different. I think like they'll find you. Like if you're on a field and somebody will call somebody and be like, "You got to see," like Albert Pujols, for example. Like they found him. In Kansas City in high school, and they pretty much earmarked him.
Oh, really?
Pretty early on.
Oh, wow.
So, as an example, I used to cover sports.
Oh, okay.
So, I had press credentials at one point
nice.
For a news station when I was in college.
Nice.
I keep all of that tucked in because I don't want to talk sports with people.
That's fair.
I watch sports. No, I really do. Like I said, I text my nephew about football, and I watch baseball. My son is a huge baseball fan, so we talk Yankees, we'll talk Cardinals. We make this stupid bet every year on who has the better record. I have not won. This year or like last year I was close, and then it fell apart. But
between the Yankees and the Cardinals.
Yankees and Cardinals, yeah. So it's like once a year, I just give him like $100 to like do whatever he wants with it.
That's cheap.
It's a very painful bet, though. No, it's just like a irritating bet. But I think in sports it's a little bit different. I think if you're like the greatest guitar player never picked up a guitar, you can't really say that. So I think
that's fair.
Once you're in sports, somebody will find you.
Yeah, that's true.
Because some parent will tell somebody or something, and they'll be like, "You got to keep an eye on this kid."
Yeah.
You know, and they'll start talking about you when they finally notice like what's really going on.
Yeah. That is true. That is true.
But as in terms of beer or bands and comics, though, all bets are off. Or even actors, or
that's probably true.
You see a lot of great acting in movies and TV shows, and it's like the third henchman or something.
Right. Yeah, exactly. I hear that's. I know a lot of great musicians.
Yeah,
and you're just like, how did this guy not make it?
Yeah,
and for whatever reason, just didn't get right from the right people.
Yeah, well, talking about my cousin's band, or however relation, like they imploded. And now they're back together. Now they're more mature, and now they're playing and wanting to record again.
Yeah.
Or the band takes breaks. Something happens. They get married. They sell. People change directions,
and being in a band is hard.
Yeah.
I mean, it's always one of those things. I mean, when they say it's a family, I mean, it really is. I mean, you bitch at each other, and you fight, and you call each other names, and you poke each other in the eye, and then you go on stage and try to put on the best show you can.
Unless you're Eagles, and then you actually fight on stage.
That is a true story. Have you ever seen that video where the bass player puts his bass down, and then he goes over by the drummer, and they just start brawling right on stage? It's awesome.
I don't. If you're talking about Eagles specifically, or
no, not the Eagles, but it was some bar band.
I don't know. Yeah, that wouldn't surprise me. Yeah, I mean that happened recently with Jane's Addiction. Did you see that video?
I did.
Yeah. Where
Perry Farrell and
Dave Navarro.
Yeah.
And he had Perry Farrell's been they said high as a kite, or allegedly,
right.
Yeah. But having some drug issues, and took it out on Dave Navarro on stage.
Yeah.
And then they were supposed to be here for Evolution
the
Fest
next
or whatever.
day or whatever, or it was that week or something. Yeah.
That happened with Soundgarden. They were supposed to lead Point Fest, and Chris Cornell took his life right before Point Fest.
Oh really? Oh
yeah, or
I didn't know
or something.
That.
Yeah. So
oh wow,
it was 2 days. And they had scrambled to find somebody.
Man, that sucks.
Yeah, it does.
That sucks. So anyway,
yeah. Thank you. You're helping me transition. I appreciate that. So you found this song. It's you and your wife's song. Your band plays it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. The response to it is actually really good. I think it's one of those things where people are like, What song are they playing? Are they really playing this? I think that's kind of what happens. I think people forget about it. Yeah, absolutely.
I'd absolutely forgot about it.
Absolutely.
And there's so many rock songs like that you can just kind of in the back of your mind, you remember it. I have one actual rock song. It's "Don't Tell Me You Love Me" by Night Ranger.
Oh yeah.
And I'm like, that's a good song.
Yeah.
I don't really listen to a lot of rock, but we'll transition here in a second. But I don't consider the band that I gave you they are rock, but I don't really they're alternative rock or whatever. It's not this is rock and roll, and then there's what happened, the garage, the resurgence of indie bands in the 2000s.
Mm-hmm, yeah.
So I did give you a song, and by the way, there's a sound cue, and that's when you're supposed to listen to the songs. I was supposed to say that earlier. She'll kill me for it, but I did say at the beginning to listen to the song. So it's not I'm not setting it up, but there is a sound cue and a QR code if you're watching the YouTube version,
cool.
And that way they can scan it and listen to it. And so I gave you a song. What was the song that I gave you?
You gave me Black Math.
Yes. By the White Stripes.
Yes.
I specifically gave you the live version, which is on...
I was going to ask about that.
Yeah. Under the Great Northern Lights is the album that it's off of. And it's specifically this version of Black Math. The original version's on Elephant, which is a great album that everyone should go out and listen to.
I actually listened to it.
Elephant just recently, or the original version of Black Math?
Both.
Okay.
Both. I listened to when you originally sent it to me.
Yeah.
I'm like, man, I don't know if I know this song.
Right.
So then I went out and listened to it, and I didn't know the song.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, I wonder if there's a studio version. And sure enough, yeah. So then, since we've been kind of bantering back and forth, I've listened to both 2 or 3 different times.
Yeah.
The whole album.
Okay,
For both. Because I'm a fan, and for folks that don't know, Black Math from White Stripes.
Yeah.
I don't think we said in White Stripes.
Yeah, I did. I said by the White Stripes. Yeah,
okay.
I did. I caught it. But we're good. So yeah, by the White Stripes. It's funny. Fell in Love with the Girl was the first song I ever heard by them, which is on their second album. And they had a video in Lego.
What year was that?
2000 or 2001.
Okay.
There. It's on Distill. It's the first one's White Stripes, then Distill, and I think this is their 4th album. Don't quote me. I mean, I'm pretty good at like my White Stripes trivia, but please don't make me like really dig deep on what songs on what album, because I'm a huge fan of individual songs by the White Stripes, and there's a lot of songs on there I could give or take.
Yeah.
I like Jack White a lot. We've been to Third Man Records a bunch of times. We went last summer and saw Interpol at Third Man. They put out an album from there. It was a big deal. Like, nice. It was like really for, and then my fiance is a huge White Stripes Jack White fan. So we have tickets to go see him upcoming this year.
Cool. Where at?
He's playing the Factory, I believe. So right down the street. Yeah. It's already sold out. So.
Oh. I didn't even know that was happening.
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, he like announced it, put the tickets on sale like a week later, and they sold out like that day.
Oh, that's unfortunate.
Yeah, you got to really follow him to like catch like where he's doing, what he's doing.
Because he does like pop-up shows too, doesn't he?
He does pop-up shows. Yeah. He was doing pop-up shows all like last winter or like last fall.
Yeah.
And we almost like tried to get tickets and like go to Chicago and catch him or something, but it was just like,
Yeah.
Then it's like a whole thing. So I fell in love with the girl. The video was Legos. And my girlfriend at the time was like, oh, you just like this because it's Lego. And I was like, no, I actually like the song. Like, I really wasn't listening to a lot of rock then. I just was kind of getting back into rock. And that's like, that's when the Strokes came out, the Yeah Yeah Yeahs, and all those like really good book, Meet Me in the Bathroom. It's like kind of about that scene. But I was really just listening to rap music more than anything else at the time. And then like White Stripes and like I said, Interpol and stuff like that. These bands just kind of like caught me because they weren't, this song is a pretty like just rock and roll song. It is a hard rock song, but the band does a lot of things besides that.
I would almost label it punk.
Yeah, there's a lot of punk influences in the White Stripes. There's a lot of Zeppelin influences. There's a lot of blues. And it's kind of like a hodgepodge, and it just works out perfectly. Black Math, I could have given or taken. I couldn't have told you like what it sounded like. I'd heard it. It was okay. There's far greater songs I thought on Elephant, and then they put out this live album, and this was on there, and I was like, this song is amazing, and it was specifically this. Like it's just the.
But you knew the song before.
Yeah,
you knew the song before.
Yes.
You were like, yeah, and then you heard the live version, and you were like, this is it.
This is it. I love live music,
awesome.
And I love seeing bands. I love live music, and I love when bands do something interesting with a song live. Either you give it to me exactly as you recorded it, and that's great, or you change it up in some way that is fascinating to me.
What do you think is different
about this version?
Yeah.
Well, it's faster tempo. He's screaming the lyrics.
That's fair.
Fair. I mean, those two things right there. When he's like, listen, man, like I don't want to get copyright stricken, but he's just like shouting it. He's like, can I ask you a question? He's like just shouting at the top of his lungs. They picked up the tempo. The tempo is immediately faster than the live, than the original version. And I was just like, okay,
that is true,
and it made such a difference to me in my head.
I will say, from my perspective,
I
was actually really impressed, and like a lot of times you'll hear a song from a band on record or whatever, and you're like, oh, that's a good song or whatever, but then you hear it live again. Yeah. Man, this is amazing because it's just got a different energy, or there's just something about it, right? Yeah. And when I listened to, because I obviously heard the live version first, and then I went and listened to the studio version, and I thought, man, he still has that energy though.
A lot of it.
Like from my perspective, like I, listening to, obviously you don't know the song as well as you do, but listening to the live version, going to the studio version, I didn't think there was that much of a letdown.
It's not a letdown. It's just, like I said, the tempo and the energy is just so much.
But it struck you very differently.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's what did it. Like sometimes like I'll prefer a live version over like a regular version. Sometimes a good cover. Like you chose a cover for this case, and you prefer the cover version.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I mean, it really depends. Like it's weird. You can't cover comedy, but you can cover music. It's like
No, you're getting in trouble if you cover
Roseanne Barr famously, when she started, was doing other people's jokes because she thought that was legal. Like, it's not that it's not illegal, but it's just like it's frowned upon.
Right.
But that was like one of the things that she did when she started.
Yeah.
But she
Really?
Yeah. And
So she would go out and watch other people and steal their jokes and then get up there and say it?
It wasn't like stealing. I think she was using like Cosby jokes and stuff like that, like things that she had heard from other.
Gotcha,
and then she was telling them, and people were like, "You can't do this." No, people stealing jokes happens, and then people, borrowing.
Right.
A lot of people. The thing now is people see something on the internet, like a meme or something, and then they'll go on stage and try and like tell that back, and it's like, well, I just saw the little frog say the same thing.
Right.
It's just not the same.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, it's an interesting world to me.
what's
Comedy world.
Oh yeah. It's different.
Yeah, I'm sure it is. Well, that was one of the things I wanted to ask you about. Is A, how did you get into comedy, and B, not that I don't want to talk about the song anymore because I mean, so let's wrap that up. So I will tell you that I kind of like you were saying before. I'm not a huge Jack White fan.
Oh, but I am a huge Jack White fan. Just to
I will say that I don't dislike anything he does either. So it's one of those things.
Yeah.
And like respect everything that he does, but I wouldn't run out and buy the record. But I heard when I heard this, and especially I spent a lot of time looking at the lyrics of this because to be honest with you, I'm like, what is he saying?
Yeah. Right.
And it was interesting. Like, what does this mean to you? Like, what do you think he's trying to get across?
Well, I didn't really give it much thought, to be honest with you.
That's
before today, or before like this week, because it's just kind of like he's just
you just
shouting.
like the song.
Yeah,
right,
I just like the song. I like the flow, like everything else, and it was kind of like, it's like maybe I'll put my love out and teach myself. Yeah, that'd be nice. But he's literally talking about math.
Right.
Like it's on. You go to genius.com.
That's where I looked at the lyrics.
And then there was like a quote. He was like, I just gave these books back to my math teacher and said I'm out.
That's what I was going to bring up, actually. That's hilarious.
And, I'm a former math teacher. So that's what I did prior to what I do now, besides the podcast. And I don't really talk about that on the podcast. It's inconsequential.
Right.
But I was going to tell you a story. I'll just tell you. I was in a classroom one time, and it was mathematical logic. So you're a software engineer. Is your degree in computer science?
No.
Okay.
No, I've got no degree at all.
Okay. Well, good for you if you were a developer, though. But so they make engineers take what they call discrete mathematics. It's basically like true, false, logic tables and stuff like that, so you can understand like how to think more logically. If you're getting a degree in mathematics, you do mathematical like theory, and it's like 223 at SIUE was the math number, and it's theory.
That was the class. That was the class number.
It was the class number, and it's like mathematical theory, and you learn how to do math proofs. And so I had this instructor.
This doesn't sound fun to me at all.
It's a washout class. It was fun. It was hard, but it was fun. It was you just learned a lot of different proofs and stuff like that, like why the square root of 2 is irrational or something like that. Which means it doesn't repeat and it doesn't end.
Right.
But you assume that it is, and then you prove that it can't be. And so those proofs are kind of cool. Getting really nerdy now. Let's focus away from that. He gives a test, and people did okay. I think I did all right. And this girl came into class, and she's like, "This wasn't in the book, and this wasn't here, and you can't make me take the. You couldn't like this isn't. You can't quiz me on this. You can't test me on this." And he's like, so he came into class the next day, and like he was like, well, he brought the syllabus with him, and he's like, the syllabus says I can cover anything that's in the book or anything here, and I can ask other questions outside of it. He's like, what am I supposed to test you on if I just test you on stuff that we looked on in class? Because basically in mathematics, it's like I show you how to do something, and then you show me like the next step.
Right.
And so like I would have...
So you can see that you fundamentally understand it.
Right. So you'd have tests that would be 6 questions on 6 pieces of paper. That was it. And that would be like that would be a test, and then so like in graduate level, you would have 2 tests. You'd have a midterm and a final, and it would. So you're really just asked 12 questions for an entire semester, right? Anyway,
Again.
This broke him. Like, he retired.
The teacher?
Yes, he retired that semester.
Wow.
For good. He was done. Like, that broke him. Like, he was just like, I'm out. I don't teach anymore.
Wow.
So, yeah. And so, like, thinking about Jack White as a young student handing these math books to the teacher and being like, I'm good.
Right.
I've had enough. Yeah. My brain is full.
It's over. Right. Right.
And, you know, he's a musician and he's clearly a poet, you know, and he's very clever. And he's done a lot of things.
Yeah.
And it's just kind of like, you know, sometimes people don't get math. You know, it's just one of those things.
Yeah.
It's like, I used to famously joke on stage, it's like people want to tell me their math stories. Like you tell them, and eventually I just told people I was a garbage man. That was the punchline.
Okay.
It's like I don't want to hear it. You know, it's like, oh, we all had bad math teachers. You know, and you know, we had good math teachers, but it's like if you get like 2 in a row, statistically, if you get 2 bad math teachers in a row, it's like over. And
yeah, then you never do math again.
And you just never do math again. Like so.
Yeah.
Something to be thought of. But yeah, in terms of this, I never really gave it much thought, and I never really knew it was about math. And then I was like, well, I guess I might want to learn what this song's really about. And that's one of the things that, like, about the podcast I always wanted to do. It's like, I love listening to songs, and I'm terrible at analogies, and I'm terrible at, like, you know, poetry and stuff like that. And I was like, you know, this would be a good time. Like, people can tell me what they think
interpret
it means.
what it means. Yeah.
I don't know what anything means. You know, unless you're telling me you slept with 100 million girls. You know, and then I know exactly what you're talking about.
No, 27,000. Remember?
Well, this guy was.
Oh, that's true.
Will Chamberlain was, you know, famously 27,000.
Right.
But anyway, so yeah, he's like. Is it the finger of the brain that you're teaching the lesson? This is such a weird question. It's like, where are you getting this from? And but my favorite part of this whole song, though, he's like, where he's bragging about how he writing down things that I don't understand. Towards the end of it, he's like, I can't tell you how proud I am, and the breakdown in the live version is great. He's like, can't tell you how proud I am, you know. Writing down things I don't know. It's just like, oh man, I was just like, that's great. Like that's what made the song for me. It's like it's always one part, you know. It's always like one specific thing, and that one part of that song just makes it for me.
Well, and it's funny because I didn't realize that's what he was saying.
Yeah.
Until I went and I'm like, I get it now. And then when I read what he had said, I'm like, now it's making all kinds of sense. Yeah. Yeah.
So no, it's kind of funny that the song's called Black Math, and I was just like, okay, I don't know, and it was just like, right. You know. And that now I as of like this week, I know what the song's about. And to me,
you've
it's
liked
like
it all
even
these
funnier.
years and not really.
Yeah, but it's even funnier to me now because it's like, you know, how many students were sitting in my classroom just being like, look, I copied it down. I have no idea what this means. And it's like,
did it make you wonder how many?
No. I don't want to know because then it's like a reflection of my abilities.
Being a teacher,
yeah.
I suppose that makes sense.
Yeah. So it's just like, no, I don't want to know. All right, so you had some questions for me about comedy and stuff.
Yeah, how did you get into comedy?
I just really wanted to do comedy my entire life. I actually,
were you a class clown, that kind of thing?
Yeah, to the point where I was getting kicked out of classes and disruptive, talkative, kind of a dick.
Yeah. You know what I was used to get, before I don't know how they did it here, but in Milwaukee, you would get check marks, right? You would get check marks. You wouldn't actually get grades like when you were in first, second grade or whatever like that. And there was always a thing that said, there was a thing checked and it said, demonstrates lack of self-control.
Yeah, I can see that. I mean, I don't know I can say it for you, but I'm just saying like, no, but in general, I don't remember like I didn't have bad grades, like not until like high school, junior high and high school. Like I had a lot of stuff happen. And so, like, I was a terrible high school student. And at that point, I didn't care. Mm-hmm. I'd either sleep in class, and if I was awake, then I was just disruptive.
Yeah.
So I would get put out in the hall. I'd say mean things to people. You know, I wasn't, like, bullying people, but I was, at the same time, like, I just wasn't, like, a nice person. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I wasn't, but at the same time, like, I was getting bullied. You know, like, I was, like... there was like kids who'd take my hats. Like I'd have Michigan hats or Detroit hats, and kids would get mad that I had them. And like I've had like more than one person steal hats from me.
Really?
Which is a weird thing. Yeah. If it happens once, it's like, okay. But like I've had 3 hats either like say Michigan, have Detroit, or have the Detroit logo stolen from me.
That's very strange.
Yeah. Oddly specific. But
here. And here in St. Louis.
Well, I grew up in Muscuda, which is 20 miles east.
Yeah.
Same difference. But yeah.
Huh.
Yeah.
Very odd.
It is.
I mean,
but,
it's not like there's no rivalry there, is there?
No, not between Illinois and Michigan. I don't think so. Right? No, that's Ohio and Michigan. Yeah. Our beef is our beef is Missouri. But yeah, so the talent show. So I ran for student council vice president because it got me out of 4 classes that day, and I wrote like a speech, and it was like a top 10 speech because I was obsessed with David Letterman at the time, and
nice,
and that got like a lot of laughs, and I was like, oh, okay, and then we had a talent show, and I tried to do another top 10 list, and I didn't memorize my jokes, and I bombed, and I hated it. And I was like, I'm good forever. And I guess I wasn't, because then right around the pandemic, right before the pandemic, I started, I was like, I got to do this. Like, I have to do this.
Oh, so it hasn't been long.
No, it really hasn't.
Oh, that's interesting.
I've been in comedy for 5 years.
Oh, interesting. Yeah. Okay. That's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. Good for you for being like, you know what, I really want to do this.
Yeah.
I mean, at our age, I think I've actually thought about starting a YouTube channel for old guys that want to play guitar. Because I know, I've talked to people that are our age, and they're like, I'd really like to learn, but and they don't, because they don't feel like they have enough time to get good or whatever. And it's like, man, what do you want to do? If you want to play guitar, pick up the guitar, and I can show shortcuts, or here's how to play simple song, whatever.
I took lessons.
Did you?
I can read music.
Nice. I can't read music.
Well, that was one of the things of taking lessons. Is he made me learn how to read music. I can play, I could sit down and probably, I could learn how to play a song. Mm-hmm. And then I realized, what am I, and here's what's going to run into your problem. You could do this, and I'm going to tell you why it's going to fail. Is that somebody pointed this out in a video, but I'm going to say it myself. But, if I'm not in a band, I have no motivation to play. If I'm not doing this for a goal, it's if I'm just sitting here, just picking away.
But that's actually one of the things that I would want to communicate to people. You can still learn how to play guitar and still be in a band. You could be 55 years old.
Yeah, you could be in a band, but then you've got to find 3 other people, 4 other people.
That is true. That's true.
I'm in all of the the St. Louis music scenes now, and it's always hey, I'm looking for somebody to do this, and it's and maybe it'll work for a month or 2, and then people get busy or whatever. But I famously saw this on the internet, and I don't know if I'll be able to find it to send to my daughter to edit in, but it was guitar lesson number 1 had 10 million views, and lesson number 2 was 4 million views. Yes. And it's just okay. Yeah. That would happen.
Yeah. 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 I mean, I haven't done it, but but
I'm not saying not to do it. I'm just saying I think it's a noble goal. I just think teaching's hard, and I know that from experience, but also at the same time, learning's hard.
Yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely. And I don't know that how much of it would be actually sitting down and be here's lesson number 1.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I don't think I would do that, but more along the lines of here's what being in a band's like.
Yeah.
If you're 55 years old and never been in a band, let me give you some insight. And because within reason, every band is the same.
Yeah.
Every single band I've ever been in has been the same.
Yeah.
As far as personalities are concerned, and conflicts, and the highs and the lows. I mean, it's all the same.
Yeah.
And it didn't matter. Comparing to bands when I was 20. It was a little bit more wild back back then, but and I'm much more sore after shows now than I was back then.
Yeah.
But it's just, it really bothers me when I hear people be like, I'd really like to learn how to play whatever instrument. And they're like, but, I'm 55 or whatever. And music is such a pure thing,
Yeah, it's the same thing about comedy, though.
Yeah,
it's
I'm sure.
Man, I always wanted to do comedy. It's well, then just do it. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm. I feel like that'd be harder for some reason.
I don't know. Maybe. Yeah, I guess so.
Yeah.
I don't think about that part of it. That's not. I was I'm just going to go and start doing.
Just go and do it. Yeah.
Yeah. And I've always had that motivation about things. It's I'm just going to do this now. I'm going to start a podcast.
Yeah.
And that was it.
Yeah. Then you just did it.
Yeah. My dad famously woke up one morning. He's I don't smoke anymore. And that was it.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. You don't hear that very often.
No.
Although if people do that, then 3 days later they're back to it. But
he never did.
Yeah. Huh. Well, good for him.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
But it was this. But that was something that sat with me. It was we just do things.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes you just have to do it. And so it's if somebody really wants to do it, your videos may help them, but they were going to do it without your videos.
Right. That's probably true. Probably true. Do you have issues with political correctness and comedy these days? Because I actually just saw a Bill Burr thing, and he was like, do your show.
I mean, it just depends on your audience. You should know your audience. You should have like, okay, this didn't work because you guys don't like this joke. I'm going to change directions.
Yeah.
You know, some people push through and be like, you know, I'm up here for me. But, you know, that only gets you so far, so long, and then people aren't going to book you anymore. I work relatively, I'm like a PG-13 comic. Like, I really don't get that dirty, and I don't really get into I don't care about that stuff. I do. But at the same time, it's like, you know, what am I going to go up here and really say? Like,
right.
You know, that somebody else isn't trying to say better than I am.
Right.
You know? It's like, I know what I want to talk about, and I know like what I want to say, and that's good enough for me.
Yeah. So where do you play? I mean, obviously I know about the comedy clubs
like right now I'm kind of like in the middle of like working on a lot of things besides comedy. Like I'm running a podcast.
Yeah.
I'm in the middle of
which takes a lot of time.
It does. And I'm in the middle of a boot camp and like trying to transition out of my job. So I really haven't been doing that much. I have a show Valentine's Day weekend at a Mexican restaurant. That'll be my next event.
Is that the last? Because you sent me one and I didn't make it over there. The one in Belleville?
Yeah.
The same place?
Yeah, same place.
Gotcha.
And so I'll have that. And then I'm in Funny Bone is having a comedy competition.
Oh, cool.
So I'll be in that. And hopefully, you know, that'll lead to some bookings at Funny Bone. I performed at Helium a few times. They're really good about putting me on the open mic, but they don't really book me. I get booked on local shows fairly infrequently. I could do more. I'm just not out and about enough to be like seen. And it's like once I get done with all this and I get like more comfortable in what I'm doing next, I'm just gonna like full court press like the podcast and then like the comedy. I'm still writing, and I've got jokes set up. I've got like on reserve, ready to go that I think will work really well, but right now it's all like on pause.
Yeah. No, I hear you. Yeah, I mean, again, it's another parallel. I mean, the promotion piece and just being out and about and people knowing your name. I mean, it's huge. I mean, it's everything, really.
Yeah. And people take breaks. You know, it's like, you know, you gotta step back, and it's like, if I don't step back right now and I don't get this stuff done, you know, I'm talking like the future of my like household kind of thing, you know, like serious things. You know, it's like, there's no money in comedy. There's really no money in this podcast, and you know, actually, this podcast has been like a money pit. Because we have fancy microphones now and everything else. And
I know.
It's
legit.
Yeah, well, sure. Anyway, thank you so much for coming on. You can look in this camera and then give out your socials if you want people to follow you or the band or whatever you want to promote, and then we'll wrap up. Thank you so much for coming on. I really appreciate it.
Actually, I might when it comes time for this project that I'm working on, the original music to come out, I might hit you up again and maybe we can talk again. We can come up with some new songs.
I haven't had anybody repeat yet. I've had people. No one's asked me outright, but people were like, "Let's do this again." So
I have now asked you outright.
You have. Don't put me on the spot. Then I got to lie to you, and then no one really wants to find out.
That guy's never coming back again.
You have no idea how good I am as being a liar, and I don't want to have to do that to you. So I don't know. I can't predict the future. I'm still booking people that like I haven't had but you know, I enjoyed talking with you. I'll put it that way.
Yeah, no, this was a good time. I'm glad we were finally able to put two and two together.
Yeah, we've been talking since November.
So, has it been that long?
It has been.
That's awesome.
Because we were talking about Thanksgiving.
That's right.
Yeah, you had like a gig in Thanksgiving time, and you had the Skanksgiving, you know, the day before Thanksgiving.
That's right. Yep. Yeah, that's true.
At the train wreck.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
At Westport.
Right. That is exactly right. That's exactly right. Yeah. No, the band is Southern Gypsy. You can find it on Facebook with an I. Yeah. GYPSI.
Yes.
Check it out, and if you guys can come out to Vices
we're gonna
or whatever.
Try to come out to Vices, which is in Redbud on.
How far is that from Belleville?
It's like 10, 12 miles south.
South, right? Yeah, that's what I thought.
Maybe
like
a little bit more. I don't know.
Yeah.
You just drive south and you run into it.
Yeah. Yeah, Vice is a cool place. I mean, it's
they have Rafe Williams there like once every couple months.
Who is it?
Rafe Williams.
Oh, I don't know if I've seen that.
He's a pretty funny comic. He's on the Rizzuto show.
Oh, okay. Oh, yeah. Well, and they have Moon in there playing his band and stuff. Yeah. So they do a good job.
Oh, good.
They do a good job.
We're going to try and make it. But
excellent. Cool.
Yeah, and then so I'm at Jeffrey Phipps on Instagram, JEFFERY_PHIPPS. We're at Gimme a Song on everything. So if you follow us on Spotify, on YouTube, everything else, I think we're actually coming up in Spotify and YouTube searches now because we have enough episodes out. For a while there, you could type it in, nothing would show up. But now we're there. So wherever you get your podcasts, and then we always close with this. Tell your friends and tell your pets. Thank you so much for coming on, and have a great day. And goodbye.
My wife calls me the whitest Mexican she ever met. I'm going to move, and I'm not going to tell anybody where I'm living.
Like, nobody's putting up Chamberlain numbers.
Right.
What was it, like 27,000?
20,000.
Stop this.
Well, that was cool.
Yeah.